Hollywood in the 1940s was filled with starlets who dreamed of making it big. Most faded into obscurity. But one woman carried a secret so dangerous that keeping it hidden would eventually cost her everything. She sang alongside Bob Hope, danced with Bing Crosby, and built a career that seemed destined for greatness. Yet behind the glamorous facade was a truth that if discovered would have destroyed her overnight. This is the story of Dona Drake. The starlet who lived a double life and paid the ultimate price for it. A childhood built on survival. The woman the world would come to know as Dona Drake entered this world on November 15, 1914 in Jacksonville, Florida. Her birth certificate read Eunice Westland. Her parents, Joseph Andrew Westland and Nala Smith, welcomed their daughter into a world that was deeply divided. Jacksonville in 1914 was a city where segregation wasn't just practiced, it was strictly enforced. The Westmoreland family faced daily reminders that their opportunities would be limited by the color of their skin. Joseph Westland worked hard to provide for his family. Nala Smith Westmand watched her daughter carefully, noticing something extraordinary. Young Eunice, nicknamed Una by her family, possessed a gift. By the time she was 5 years old, she could play multiple musical instruments. Her voice carried a natural quality that made people stop and listen. Nala recognized that this talent might be her daughter's ticket to a better life, though the path to that life would require sacrifices nobody could fully understand yet. Jacksonville may have been known as the winter film capital of the world from 1907 to 1918, hosting 30 permanent film studios where Oliver Hardy got his start. But by the time Eunice was old enough to dream of performing, those studios had moved to California. More importantly, even if they'd stayed, the doors would have been closed to a young African-American girl, no matter how talented she was. The Westmorelands understood this reality all too well. The family made a difficult decision. They packed up their lives and moved north to Philadelphia, searching for better opportunities. Joseph found work at a chili parlor, but feeding 5 children on a restaurant worker's salary stretched every dollar thin. The family struggled, and as Eunice grew older, her musical talents became impossible to ignore. Nala began forming a plan, one that would change her daughter's life forever, but would also set in motion a chain of events that could never be undone. The tension in the Westmoreland household wasn't just about money. It was about identity, opportunity, and survival. The world was changing, but not fast enough for a young African-American girl with dreams of stardom, the first transformation. In the early 1930s, Nala Westland made a bold decision. She would take her daughter to New York City, the entertainment capital of the East Coast, and see if Eunice's talents could open doors. They brought along another young woman from the restaurant where Joseph worked, a waitress named Renee Villian, who also harbored dreams of performing. Eunice adopted her first stage name, Una Vian, sometimes spelled Una Vion. She and Renee formed what they called a sister act, performing in nightclubs and wherever they could book a gig. The Paradise Club on Broadway gave them their first real break. Night after night, Una sang and danced, her natural charisma drawing attention from audiences and industry professionals alike. One evening, producer Earl Carroll spotted her on stage. Carroll was known for his elaborate theatrical reviews, and he had an eye for talent. He cast Una in his production of Murder at the Vanities, a murder mystery musical that gave her visibility in legitimate theater. When that show ended, Una and Renee went on tour with packaged shows headlined by major stars like Rudy Vallee and Harry Richmond. The work was steady, if not spectacular. Then Renee got married and left the act. Una was on her own navigating the competitive world of New York entertainment. During this period, she made a connection that would prove both beneficial and dangerous. She began dating a man named Louis Pretty Amber. Amber was a Russian mobster with a violent temper and connections throughout Brooklyn's underworld. His nickname Pretty was deeply ironic. He was known for his brutal methods and hair-trigger rage. His reputation for violence preceded him wherever he went. This was the man Unaon chose to become involved with. Why would a young woman with everything to lose get involved with someone so dangerous? Perhaps it was the gifts, the attention, the protection his name provided in the rough world of nightclubs. Perhaps she believed she could manage the relationship and use his connections to advance her career. Whatever her reasons, the relationship wouldn't last long. though it would end in a way nobody could have predicted. But before we get to that shocking turn of events, Dona's career was about to take a major leap forward. The opportunity of a lifetime. In 1935, Dona received news that would change everything. She'd been cast in a feature film, Strike Me Pink, starring the legendary Eddie Kaner. This wasn't a small theater production or a nightclub act. This was Hollywood. Even if she'd be filming in California while still going by her New York stage name, she would need to adopt yet another identity for this new chapter. She chose Rita Rio, a name that emphasized exotic appeal without specifying exactly what kind of exotic. The studio publicity machine could work with that ambiguity. Rita Rio sounded vaguely Latin American, perhaps Spanish, maybe even Italian. The exact origins remained carefully undefined. For a light-skinned African-American woman who needed to pass as something other than what she was, this ambiguity became her greatest asset. Strike Me Pink came out in 1936. Rita Rio's screen time was limited, but she made an impression. More importantly, the experience taught her how Hollywood worked. She understood that her appearance, her light skin, her features, her carefully cultivated ambiguity gave her opportunities that darker-skinned African-American performers could never access. She also understood that one slip, one person recognizing her true background, could end everything instantly. The film role didn't lead to immediate Hollywood stardom, but it gave Rita something equally valuable: credibility. She leveraged that credibility to form her own all-girl orchestra, Rita Rio and her Rhythm Girls. Some promotional materials called them the Girlfriends. The group toured successfully throughout the late 1930s, performing at theaters and clubs across the country. Leading an all-girl band required more than musical talent. Rita had to manage personalities, handle bookings, negotiate contracts, and maintain the group's image. She proved surprisingly adept at the business side of entertainment. The band's glamorous image, matching outfits, choreographed routines, polished performances set them apart from other acts. Rita Rio and her Rhythm Girls became a draw, and Rita herself became the face of the operation. But back in New York, a storm was brewing that would remove one complication from Rita's life, though in the most disturbing way possible. A body in a burning car. On October 23, 1935, news broke that would shock New York City's underworld. Police discovered a burning car in Brooklyn. On the back seat was a body stripped of clothing with a sack placed over the head and hands tied with wire. The victim was identified as Louis Pretty Amber, the same mobster Rita had been dating. Amber's ending was particularly gruesome. He'd been taken out by rival gangsters in a hit that sent a message through Brooklyn's criminal networks. The case made headlines and reporters dug into Amber's life looking for angles to sensationalize the story. Rita's name surfaced as his former girlfriend, but she was conveniently 3,000 miles away in California working on her first film. The timing was suspiciously perfect. Had Rita known what was coming? Had someone warned her to leave town? Or was it simply fortunate coincidence that she was in Hollywood establishing an alibi when her dangerous boyfriend met his violent end? The answers to these questions were never made public, and Rita certainly wasn't volunteering information. She was focused on her future, not her past. The Amber connection could have destroyed Rita's reputation before her career truly began. A young woman romantically involved with a murdered mobster. That's not the kind of publicity that leads to legitimate success in Hollywood. But distance and silence protected her. She stayed in California, kept her head down, and continued building her career. The scandal faded from the newspapers and Rita Rio moved forward. What the incident really taught her was the importance of carefully managing her image and controlling information about her past. If the wrong details surfaced about Amber, about her time in New York nightclubs, about her family background, everything could unravel. Keeping secrets became not just a necessity, but a survival skill. And as we'll see, she would need every bit of that skill for what came next: Dorothy Lamour, and a new identity. By the early 1940s, Rita Rio had built a respectable career as a band leader and performer. She'd appeared in several short films and 2 reelers. Nothing major, but enough to keep her name circulating in entertainment circles. Then she made a friendship that would transform her trajectory. She became close with actress Dorothy Lamour. Lamore was a genuine star, best known for her appearances in the road to films with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. She had connections at Paramount Pictures, and she believed Rita had the talent to succeed in Hollywood. Lama used her influence to get Rita a meeting with studio executives. Paramount saw potential in the exotic-looking performer and decided to sign her, but Paramount wanted to rebrand her completely. Rita Rio didn't sound glamorous enough. Didn't have the right ring for a contract player. The studio's publicity department went to work creating a new identity from scratch. They settled on the name Donna Drake. It was pronounced Dionu, not Do. And they built an entire fictional biography to go with it. According to Paramount's press releases, Donna Drake was born Rita Nala in Mexico City. Her parents worked in the restaurant industry there, and she'd been raised speaking both English and Spanish. She was of Mexican, Irish, and French descent. A carefully constructed ethnic cocktail that explained her appearance without raising uncomfortable questions. The studio sent out glossy photos and detailed biographical information to newspapers and magazines, building the mystique of their new Latin American sensation. Donna committed fully to this new identity. She learned to speak Spanish fluently, practicing until she could converse naturally. She studied Mexican culture and customs so she could answer questions convincingly in interviews. When reporters asked about her childhood in Mexico City, she had stories ready. The lies became so practiced that they almost felt like truth. Paramount cast Donna in a series of films where she played ethnic characters, Latin Americans, Middle Easterners, Native Americans, Gypsies, essentially anyone who wasn't supposed to be straightforwardly white American. Her first major role came in Alma of the South Seas in 1941. The following year, she appeared in Star-Spangled Rhythm, a musical revue featuring Paramount's biggest stars. But her most memorable role from this era came in 1942's Road to Morocco, the third film in the hugely popular Road to series. Donna played Myrma, an Arab girl who catches the attention of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby's characters. The film was a massive hit, earning over $3 million at the box office. Donna held her own alongside two of Hollywood's biggest comedy stars, delivering her lines with perfect timing and bringing genuine charm to her scenes. Yet, despite appearing in hit films with major stars, Donna began to feel frustrated with the limitations of her roles. As she would later admit, she didn't sign with Paramount to comb Dorothy Lamore's hair or chase Bob Hope from one picture to another. She wanted substantial parts, leading roles, something more than being exotic window dressing. But Paramount had a formula that worked, and they weren't interested in experimenting with their investment. The tension between what Donna wanted and what Hollywood would give her was about to reach a breaking point. But first, her personal life would take an unexpected turn. 10 Days to Forever. In 1944, Donna Drake was cast in a B-movie called Hot Rhythm. The film was nothing special, a low-budget musical designed to fill theater schedules between major releases. Donna played a big band singer, and the cast included Irene Ryan, who would decades later become famous as Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies. But the most significant thing that happened on the set of Hot Rhythm had nothing to do with the film itself. There was a costume designer on the production named William Trela. Everyone called him Billy. He was ambitious, talented, and working his way up in Hollywood's competitive costume design field. When he and Donna met on set, the connection was immediate and intense. They began dating, and after just 10 days, they decided to get married. On August 19, 1944, Donna Drake and William Trela were married in a small, informal ceremony. Very few people attended. The wedding was deliberately low-key, almost secretive. There was a reason for that secrecy, though Trela may not have fully understood it at the time. Donna Drake, born Eunice Westmoreland, an African-American woman passing as Mexican, had just married a white man. Interracial marriage was illegal in California in 1944. By marrying Trela, Donna had committed a crime. If authorities discovered the truth about her background, her marriage certificate could be used as evidence against her. She could face criminal charges, social disgrace, and the immediate end of her career. Trela could claim ignorance. He may have genuinely believed his wife was Latina, but Donna knew exactly what she was doing. She was betting everything on her ability to maintain the facade. The marriage seemed happy at first. Trailer was supportive of Dona's career and she encouraged his work. But Paramount had dropped Dona by this point, cutting her loose after Hot Rhythm's lackluster performance. The studio that had reinvented her as a Mexican beauty now had no use for her. She was on her own, freelancing wherever she could find work. Dona appeared in Without Reservations in 1946, playing a supporting role. She co-starred with Kent Taylor in Dangerous Millions that same year. In 1948, she had a memorable part in Another Part of the Forest, playing the girlfriend of Dan Juria's Weasley character. The following year, she was cast as the Native American maid Jenny in Beyond the Forest, a film starring B. Davis. She also appeared in The Girl from Jones Beach with Eddie Bracken. These were respectable credits, better than many working actors could claim, but they weren't star-making roles. Dona remained a character actress, recognizable, but never quite breaking through to leading lady status. Meanwhile, her husband's career was taking off in ways hers never had, and that success would create new tensions in their household. The Oscar that changed everything. While Dona struggled to find consistent work, William Trela was ascending to the top of his profession. He was assigned to work on The Adventures of Don Juan, a lavish swashbuckler starring Errol Flynn. Trela's costume designs for the film were spectacular, rich, detailed, historically inspired creations that brought the period to life. At the 1949 Academy Awards ceremony, Trela won the Oscar for Best Costume Design for his 1948 work. Suddenly, Dona Drake was no longer the more famous spouse. Her husband was an Academy Award winner sought after by major productions. Directors specifically requested Trela for their films. His name became synonymous with quality costume design in Hollywood. The power dynamic in their marriage had shifted completely. For Dona, watching her husband succeed where she couldn't must have been difficult. She'd been the one with industry connections through Dorothy Lamour. She'd been the one with a Paramount contract. She'd been the one whose name appeared in studio publicity. Now she was William Trela's wife, known for being married to an Oscar winner rather than for her own accomplishments. But personal disappointment was the least of Dona's worries. Her health had begun to deteriorate in ways that couldn't be ignored or explained away as simple stress. The body keeps score. After the failure of The Girl from Jones Beach in 1949, Dona started experiencing strange symptoms. She suffered unexplained episodes where her body would seize up. Sometimes she'd lose awareness of her surroundings. Other times she'd feel perfectly fine only to collapse without warning. Trela urged her to see doctors, concerned that the stress of acting was literally making her sick. The diagnosis, when it finally came, was frightening. Epilepsy. Dona had a neurological condition that caused seizures. The doctors couldn't say what had triggered it. Whether it was genetic, environmental, or the result of stress and trauma accumulating over years, what they could say was that the condition was chronic. Dona would need to manage it for the rest of her life, and the stress that seemed to trigger her episodes wasn't going away. Think about what Dona's life had become. She was a black woman passing as Mexican, married illegally to a white man, living in constant fear that someone would discover her true identity. She was watching her career stagnate while her husband's flourished. She was taking on any role offered to her, no matter how small, because she needed the money and the visibility. The physical toll of maintaining this facade day after day, year after year, was manifesting in her body's inability to cope. But Trela later revealed something else about his wife's condition. He described Dona diplomatically as someone who found it hard to come home and step out of the character she'd been playing all day. This wasn't just an actress having trouble separating her stage persona from her real self. This was a woman who had been playing a character every moment of every day for over a decade. Dona Drake wasn't just a stage name. It was a complete identity she'd constructed and could never fully abandon, even in her own home. The question that haunts this story is whether Trevilla knew the truth about his wife. Did he understand that the woman he'd married was not actually Latina? Or did Dona maintain the deception even in the most intimate relationship of her life? The historical record doesn't provide a clear answer, but Trela's later comments suggest he understood his wife was carrying burdens he could never fully comprehend. As Dona's health worsened, something happened that should have brought joy, but instead brought terror. The pregnancy no one could know about. In 1951, Dona discovered she was pregnant. For most couples, this would be cause for celebration. For Dona, it was potentially catastrophic. She was about to give birth to a child whose appearance might reveal the secret she'd spent nearly 2 decades protecting. What if the baby's skin was darker than hers? What if the child inherited features that couldn't be explained by Dona's fictional Mexican, Irish, French heritage? What if relatives wanted to visit, bringing the Westmoreland family into contact with Dona's Hollywood friends and colleagues? Every variable was a threat, every possibility a danger. Dona spent 9 months in a state of anxious anticipation, unable to share her fears with anyone. On August 16, 1951, 3 days before Dona and Trela's 7th wedding anniversary, their daughter was born. They named her Nia Nala Trela, with the middle name honoring Dona's mother. When the baby arrived, Dona's worst fears weren't realized. Nia's appearance didn't raise questions or suspicions. She looked like she could be the daughter of a Mexican-Irish-French mother and a white father. Dona had gotten lucky. But motherhood didn't bring peace. If anything, it added another layer of stress to Dona's already complicated life. Now she had to protect not just her own secret, but also ensure her daughter never learned the truth in a way that could expose them both. She had to manage visits with her parents carefully, making sure the Westmollands weren't present at events where their identity might become known. The web of deception grew more complex with each passing year. Dona did take time off from acting after Nia's birth, focusing on motherhood, but financial pressures and her need to maintain visibility in Hollywood eventually pulled her back to work. She returned to film in 1952 with Kansas City Confidential, a film noir where she played a relatively small but memorable role. The film was a hit, one of the most commercially successful pictures Dona had appeared in. For a moment, it seemed like her career might revive. She was a working actress, a mother, married to an Oscar winner. From the outside, her life looked successful. But behind closed doors, everything was beginning to unravel. The marriage falls apart. By the mid-1950s, the Trela household was showing serious cracks. Dona's epilepsy required ongoing medical treatment. Her emotional state was fragile. Travilla had gently acknowledged that his wife struggled with mental health challenges, though he never specified the details publicly. The strain of maintaining her false identity for over 20 years was taking its toll in every possible way. Dona's final film appearance came in 1955 with Princess of the Nile, a costume drama where, ironically, Trela designed her costumes. She also made several television appearances, including an episode of the Superman series. But by 1955, she'd essentially retired from performing. The combination of health problems and emotional difficulties made it impossible to continue working. In the mid-1950s, Dona and Trela separated. They didn't divorce. They never would. But they could no longer live together. Trela moved out of the family home. Though he returned for extended periods and maintained the public appearance of an intact marriage. They appeared together at social functions. They supported each other's careers. From outside, they seemed like a devoted couple who simply needed space. But the truth was far more complicated. By the late 1960s, Dona was barely working at all. The combination of epilepsy, the stress of maintaining her secret identity, and her deteriorating mental health had become too much to bear. The strain on her relationship with Nia grew as Dona's health challenges made consistent parenting increasingly difficult. Trela took on more responsibility for raising their daughter as Dona withdrew further into isolation. The final years after the separation, Dona Drake essentially disappeared from public view. Throughout the 1970s and most of the 1980s, she was rarely seen. Old friends lost contact with her. Industry professionals who'd worked with her assumed she'd died or moved away from Los Angeles entirely. The woman who'd once performed with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, who'd led an all-girl orchestra and appeared in dozens of films, had become invisible. Trela remained connected to her throughout this period, though the exact nature of their relationship was unclear to outsiders. They'd separated but never divorced. He'd taken primary responsibility for raising Nia, but reportedly still felt responsible for Dona's well-being. When asked about his wife, Trela would deflect or give vague answers about her health problems, never revealing more than absolutely necessary. By the late 1970s, Dona's health was in serious decline. The epilepsy had never been fully controlled. Her heart had developed problems. Respiratory issues made breathing difficult. She was in and out of medical care, and those who saw her were shocked by how much she deteriorated. The woman who'd once seemed ageless and glamorous now looked frail and exhausted. The distance between Dona and her daughter grew over these years. As Nia grew older under Trevilla's care, the relationship between mother and daughter became strained by absence and illness. The family that Dona had once feared would expose her secret had instead fractured under the weight of that secret and the health problems it may have caused. During these isolated years, Dona had time to reflect on the choices she'd made. She'd sacrificed authenticity for opportunity, family connections for professional advancement, and peace of mind for fame. Whether she believed those sacrifices had been worth it, we can only speculate. But the toll on her body and mind suggested that even if her career had justified the deception, her health had paid an unbearable price. On June 20, 1989, Dona Drake passed away at the age of 74. The official causes of death were listed as pneumonia and respiratory failure. She died in Los Angeles, the city where she'd built her career, and maintained her secret until the very end. Her body was cremated, and her ashes were scattered at sea, leaving no grave marker or physical memorial to mark her existence. William Trevilla, who'd been legally married to Dona for 45 years despite their long separation, died exactly 1 year later in 1990. Their daughter, Nia Trela, would live until 2002, passing away at the age of 51 without having had any children of her own. The Trela Drake family line ended with her. When Dona died, some obituaries finally acknowledged what she'd spent her life hiding. She was born on Eunice West End, an African-American woman who'd passed as Latina throughout her career. Other obituaries repeated Paramount's old publicity, still listing her as Rita Nala, born in Mexico City. Even in death, there was confusion about who Dona Drake really was. The cost of passing. Dona Drake's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about Hollywood's golden age and the price of success in a deeply segregated industry. She was a light-skinned black woman with extraordinary talent who understood that revealing her true identity would end her career before it began. So, she made a choice. She became someone else. That choice gave her opportunities she would never have had as Eunice Westmand. She performed with major stars. She appeared in hit films. She led her own orchestra. She married a successful costume designer and had a child. From one perspective, her decision to pass allowed her to build a life that would have been impossible otherwise. But from another perspective, that decision cost her everything. She lived every day in fear of exposure. She couldn't acknowledge her family publicly. She learned Spanish and created elaborate lies about her childhood to maintain her cover. The stress manifested as epilepsy and other health problems. Her marriage fell apart. She eventually surrendered custody of her daughter. She spent her final decades in virtual isolation, rarely seen or heard from, and she died with many people still not knowing who she really was. The most haunting aspect of Dona's story is that she never abandoned her parents despite passing as a different race. Unlike the characters in Imitation of Life, the story her life is so often compared to, Dona maintained her relationship with Joseph and Nala Westmland throughout her life. She visited them quietly, carefully, making sure these visits never intersected with her Hollywood life. She loved her parents and couldn't bring herself to cut them out of her life completely. But that meant living a double life in the most literal sense. When she was with her family, she could be Eunice, the daughter who'd made it in show business through talent and determination. When she was in Hollywood, she had to be Dona Drake, the exotic Mexican beauty with the fictional biography, the cognitive dissonance of maintaining both identities simultaneously, never being fully one or the other, never able to relax completely into either role. That's what ultimately destroyed her. Census records tell the story of her family's shifting identity across decades. The 1910 census lists Dona's parents as black. The 1920 census lists them as mulatto. The 1930 census lists them as Negro. But the 1950 census tells a different story. Dona's father and brother in Pennsylvania were still listed as Negro, while Donna herself, living in California under her married name, Donna Trail, was listed as white. The official government records tracked the fracturing of the family's identity as Donna's career required her to separate herself further and further from her origins, the secret that killed her. Donna Drake's death certificate lists pneumonia and respiratory failure as the causes of death. Those were the immediate medical reasons her body stopped functioning. But the real cause of Donna Drake's death was the secret she carried for 55 years. The stress of maintaining that secret manifested physically as epilepsy and seizures, conditions that worsened over time. The emotional toll led to the mental health struggles that Trail diplomatically acknowledged but never fully explained. The constant vigilance required to never slip up, never accidentally reveal something that would expose her true background, never allow herself to fully relax. That vigilance was exhausting in ways that most people could never understand. Donna couldn't go to church with her family. She couldn't have childhood friends visit her on set. She couldn't reminisce about growing up in Jacksonville, Florida. She couldn't correct interviewers when they repeated Paramount's lies about her Mexican birth and upbringing. She had to remain perpetually on guard, performing the role of Donna Drake every waking moment of her life, even when the cameras weren't rolling. The epilepsy was likely stress-induced. The heart problems that developed later may have been exacerbated by decades of living in a constant state of anxiety. The respiratory failure that finally killed her could have been hastened by the physical toll of maintaining such an exhausting deception for so long. While no doctor would write keeping a secret as a cause of death, for Donna Drake, that's exactly what it was. What she left behind. Donna Drake's films still exist. You can watch her performance in Road to Morocco. See her dance in Star-Spangled Rhythm. Observe her dramatic work in Beyond the Forest. Her musical recordings have been preserved. The UCLA Film and Television Archive even restored some of her work, including a short called Sweet Shoe with funding from the Grammy Museum. But when you watch those performances now, knowing what she was hiding, they take on a different quality. Every smile seems to contain sadness. Every line delivery carries the weight of secrets. You can see the strain in her eyes, even when she's supposed to be playing a carefree character. Once you know Donna Drake's story, you can never watch her performances the same way again. Her legacy has become a cautionary tale about the cost of passing, about the damage that systemic racism inflicted on talented performers who had to choose between their identity and their career. Donna Drake proved that even when passing worked, even when she successfully built a career and maintained her secret, the psychological and physical cost was devastating. Modern scholars and film historians have reclaimed Donna Drake's story as an important example of how Black performers navigated Hollywood's racist structure. She wasn't the only African-American who passed as another ethnicity during this era, but her story is one of the most thoroughly documented and most tragic. She's become a symbol of the impossible choices talented Black women faced in early Hollywood and the price they paid for those choices. The final truth. In the end, Donna Drake's greatest performance wasn't any role she played on screen. It was the role she played every day of her adult life, the role of someone she wasn't. She convinced Hollywood, convinced the American public, convinced perhaps even her own husband that she was a Latina performer from Mexico City. She learned Spanish, created elaborate backstories, and never broke character even in moments of crisis. That performance earned her a career. It put food on her table. It allowed her to marry and have a child. But it also isolated her from her community, fractured her sense of self, destroyed her health, and ultimately contributed to her early death. Donna Drake sacrificed everything to maintain the illusion, and in the end, the illusion was all that remained. Her story raises questions that don't have easy answers. Should she have tried to break through as an African-American performer, even though that path would have been far more difficult and might have led to complete failure? Should she have abandoned Hollywood entirely and built a different life where she didn't have to hide who she was? Or did she make the only reasonable choice available to a talented woman born into a racist system that would have denied her any opportunity to use her gifts? There's no objective answer to these questions. Donna Drake made her choice and she lived and died with the consequences. Her story serves as a reminder of what racism cost, not just in terms of opportunities denied, but in terms of lives damaged and destroyed by the need to hide one's true self. When Donna Drake died in 1989, she was survived by her arranged husband, William Travilla, and her daughter, Nia, from whom she'd been separated for decades. She left behind a body of work that few remember today. She left behind census records that tracked her family's shifting racial designations across decades. And she left behind a warning about the price of living a lie, even when that lie seems necessary for survival. The woman born Eunice Westland in Jacksonville, Florida, died as Donna Drake Trela in Los Angeles, California, having spent her entire adult life as someone else. Whether she ever found peace with that choice, whether she ever regretted the path she'd chosen, whether she died still maintaining the character she'd created or finally acknowledged her true self. These things we may never know. What we do know is this. Donna Drake was a woman of extraordinary talent who was forced by the circumstances of her birth and her era to make an impossible choice. She chose to pass, and that choice gave her a career but cost her nearly everything else. Her story isn't just about one woman's deception. It's about a system so broken that talented people had to erase themselves to succeed. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more fascinating stories.